changed the deal a little bit, but I would say so. I think based on everything I'm hearing, they haven't changed anything, and we have support from enough Democrats.
Donald Trump said he will sue the BBC next week for between $1 and $5 billion in damages. This is because the channel said it committed a mistake of judgment when it edited one of his statements for a Panorama report. The BBC has apologized, but the former president of the United States argues that this apology is not enough and that he thinks he needs to take the station to court. But what really happened in that movie? And why has the argument turned into one of the biggest media crises of the year? A videotape from Trump's speech on January 6, 2021, is at the heart of the dispute. The BBC featured it in its show, Panorama. Trump, a second chance? Panorama didn't present the whole speech or a continuous chunk. Instead, it used clips from different times, with the speeches happening over an hour apart. Some people argue that the way these clips were put together made it look like Trump was promoting violence and directly causing the storming of the U.S. Capitol. Trump argued that the cut distorted the context of what he said and gave people a completely wrong idea of what he meant. The former president said the edit was beyond fake and even corrupt, and he blamed the BBC for changing how people understood an important period in history. Are these changes an honest error or a big lie? The subject is now at the center of a heated global discussion. The BBC apologized after getting a lot of pressure. Samir Shah, the chair of the BBC, wrote a letter to the White House apologizing and saying that the edit was a mistake. The company maintained it didn't mean to trick viewers, and that the edit was meant to make a very long speech shorter for inclusion in a documentary. It even agreed not to show the documentary again in its original form. The BBC also strongly indicated that it doesn't think Trump has a good reason to sue for defamation. They added that the mistake was unintentional and not designed to hurt his reputation. Why did the BBC say sorry for the edit, yet say it didn't break any laws? That paradox is now one of the most confusing parts of the story. The fallout inside the BBC has been huge. Two of the organization's most important people, Director General Tim Davie and Head of News Deborah Turness, quit because of the scandal. The fact that they left shows how seriously the BBC is taking this disaster and how it has affected everyone at the network. The BBC has long been thought of as one of the most reputable news sources in the world, but people are now watching closely how it handles politically sensitive information. The internal storm has made many rethink the standards for writing and the method of making documentaries that change how people think about world events. How could an organization with so much knowledge let such a dangerous editing mistake get through without checking it? Trump has been very strong in his response. He remarked on Air Force One that the edit changed the words coming out of my mouth, and that the broadcast was a sort of media manipulation with political ramifications. He has made the lawsuit about more than simply safeguarding his own reputation. It is also about defending the truth. He said that the edit was election interference, especially because the program aired just before the 2024 U.S. presidential election. He says that if he doesn't hold the BBC accountable, other news organizations might feel free to change political views in ways that could be harmful, but critics want to know if Trump really cares about fairness, or if the lawsuit may potentially be used for political purposes. Is this case about bringing back the truth, or about having another big fight with the media? The legal path ahead is not easy. One problem is figuring out who has the right to do anything. Experts suggest that if Trump tries to sue in the UK, he may have trouble, because the documentary broadcast more than a year ago, which means that the period for defamation claims may have passed. Also, defamation awards in the UK are usually much lower than the billions Trump is asking for. On the other hand, it might be hard for Trump to sue in the US because the show is broadcast on British TV, not US networks. This makes it tougher for him to show that he's suffered financial and reputational harm in the US. Also, under American law, public officials have to reach a high standard by showing actual malice, which means that the BBC either knew the edit was false or didn't care about the truth. With these problems, how likely is it that Trump will win billions of dollars? This argument has bigger effects on politics. Trump has indicated he wants to talk to UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer in person. He also claimed that he thinks Starmer is very embarrassed by the issue. Some people in Britain are worried that a lawsuit of this size against a taxpayer-supported station could cause diplomatic problems or start a political discussion about how public media are funded and controlled. Some people worry that a huge lawsuit could make the BBC less independent by making it more careful when it reports on politicians. Could this case change how governments and broadcasters work together at a time of deep political division? The scandal also raises bigger questions about how much people trust the media. People who support Trump say that the edit shows that mainstream news outlets change the way they talk about politics. People who support the BBC argue the company made a mistake, but is being unfairly attacked for political reasons. The case may change how people think about the dependability of edited film, the difficulties of delivering stories and documentaries, and the duties that broadcasters have when covering public personalities. When a global news organization makes a mistake, how does that affect people's trust in that news organization and in journalism as a whole? As the date for the planned lawsuit gets closer, both sides seem to be stuck. Trump has indicated that the lawsuit has to be done, and his lawyers think that the BBC's apology makes the case stronger that the cut caused harm. The BBC says the opposite, that the apology was moral and responsible, but not an admission of guilt. The company claims it will strongly defend itself, saying that it did not disparage Trump, and that the mistake does not warrant billions in penalties. This makes me wonder, if the matter goes to court, will the fight be mostly in the courts or in the court of public opinion? One of the most interesting things about this story is that a few seconds of edited video, just a little part of a long speech, has caused a worldwide argument about media ethics, political power, and the law. The BBC has been around for more than 100 years, but it is now facing a problem that hasn't happened in a long time. Trump, a public figure used to high-stakes fights, seems willing to take the argument as far as it can go. What happens when a well-known public broadcaster and a prominent politician clash on the world stage? The Globe is getting more and more anxious as it waits for the formal filing. Will Trump take the case to a UK court, where he might get less money but cause more trouble for the BBC? Will he take the fight to US courts, where the rules are stricter? Will the BBC give in or stick to its guns and defend its editorial choices? And maybe the most crucial question for people all across the world, what does this case signify for the future of holding the media accountable? The next several weeks might change not only the outcome of this litigation, but also the relationship between political leaders and big news companies in the future. Thanks for watching. Click the like button and subscribe to our channels for more videos.